Thank you everyone for joining, and I see people are continuing to come into the room. So again, just reiterating what Lori just mentioned. If you have any questions at all, if you've attended any of my webinars, you already know this. And if you are new to me, welcome, welcome. But I definitely treat the webinars like conversation. So I will be checking the chat and Q&A, but I highly recommend you keep the questions in Q&A. That way nothing gets lost in sauce. But it is a dialogue, so please feel free to drop questions in, and I'm watching and I'm tracking that, so I'll answer them as we go. So if you are new to me, I am Altamise Nicole. I am the CEO and founder of the Azar Agency. We are an MBE certified marketing and PR firm located operating out of Bluffton, South Carolina, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, which not many people know. And we do everything from digital marketing, social media strategy, website development, to traditional PR and pitching, to event management. So super duper excited to have this conversation with you all. Laura, you can go ahead and go back to the outline. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so for our agenda, we're gonna go through all things social media strategy and content. This webinar today is actually perfect timing because everything that we're gonna talk about today, you can actually apply to your brand and your business in this very moment in preparation for 2024 content strategy. So we're going to talk about why the strategy matters, talk about some key business fundamentals when we think about social media strategy, and how you can create that strategy and where the content calendar fits into that. And then we'll also talk about, how to actually create a full content calendar for your brand, what essential things you'll need, and then the community management piece, which, is near and dear to my heart, but that's the part that often gets lost in content strategy these days. So we'll talk all through those things, everything content strategy, social media strategy, and as you have questions, please let me know. All right, next slide. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to dive right on in, and we're going to talk about strategy and why it matters. Okay. If you are a business owner, which I'm assuming you are, if you are here, however, you might be in the process of building that business and, you are an aspiring business owner. Social media has two sides to it. We all know it from the personal side, right? We all know that everybody has a social media profile. We connect with friends and family, people that we like, we follow, those kind of things. Please keep in mind that as a business owner, we should look at social media as a platform to reach the audience that we serve, right? So whether you like a platform or not, have favor for a platform or not, all of that kind of leans into the personal side and the personal use of social media. And for business, we have to remember that we go where our audience is available, where they are, where we can be of service to them, where we can solve a problem for them, that kind of thing. So social media is essential to business and just making sure people know who you are. They know where to find you. They know what you provide. They know what problems you solve, all of the things. And when we dive into business and social media, there has to be a strategy in place, right? If I'm posting as myself, I don't really need a strategy. I can just post whenever I want. I can say whatever I need to say, go on about my day, share sentiment about something. But as a business owner, I have certain things that I want to achieve. There are certain business objectives that I have. There are certain goals, revenue goals that I need to hit or that I desire to hit. And if that's the case, I need to be very strategic with how I get the messaging out to the people that I serve and the people that I'm talking to, the audience that I have. So without a strategy, it's going to feel very reactive. What does that reactivity looks like? It looks like, dang it, I haven't posted on my business for 3 weeks. Let me go ahead and put a post up really quick, right? Or it'll look like, man, I just posted and all these people keep commenting and I just, I can't, I don't have time. I gotta do something else. I gotta handle this. Or I'm a post and then 2 days later, go back and reply to all the people who responded, right? That is reactive. That is very reactive. And the platforms are set up now to where you don't have to be. You don't have to be reactive. You have content planning. You can schedule posts out. They have, for Meta platform specifically, they have an actual tool within Business Suite that allows you to manage all of your comments and your private messages all in one place. And they give you a spot where you can label them as a potential client or to follow up with them, or you can assign them to team members if someone is managing your social, all of the things, because they know that being reactive in business with social, it could be overwhelming. It could be completely overwhelming. And oftentimes when people don't have a strategy, they will feel as if social media is taking up so much time in their day that they can't even focus on the thing that matters most, which is the business operations and the objectives. So remember that you are planning your social media content, and when you plan it, you are creating a priority, and you're creating consistency in how you show up to your audience, and making sure that it is timely, making sure that they can depend on you, and then as a result, more people follow you. So the strategy is extremely important. You have to have a strategy in place and kind of like a game plan and how you're going to plan to approach your strategic content on all of the social media platforms, regardless of which one it is. All right, next slide. Okay, so key fundamentals. So as you're preparing for 2024, there are certain things that if you are an entrepreneur and you are doing all of this by yourself, you might look at this like, I don't really need it. However, creating all of this stuff now will be a lifesaver when you hire someone to manage your content for you. In there, you would have, your brand identity kit. We call it a brand guidebook, but it's your brand identity. It's how you show up, and it's that unique fingerprint to your brand to where people know, like, oh, that's Target, or that's Walmart, or that's Dunkin', right? So it includes your values, your core values, and your mission statement. It includes the different products and services that you may have. It includes your logos in multiple variations, meaning that if you have a logo that has an illustration as a part of it, could the illustration be pulled out from the logo? And if so, how, right? So it'll help people to understand, how to properly utilize your logo, for one, but for brand identity and recognizing you. An example of that, I just mentioned a few big brands, but an example would be Target. So Target can say Target, and they can use their name, right? But if you see the bullseye, the red bullseye, you automatically know it's Target. Like they don't even have to say it's Target anymore because their logo has been so consistent over time, has been repeated over time, that now they can take out the name Target and just use the bullseye, the red bullseye. And yes, the presentation will be provided to you after the webinar. So don't worry, you'll have all of these slides and you'll be able to refer to them afterwards. And in addition to the logo and multiple variations, you want to make sure you have font files. So I can't tell you how many times We have tried to, we work with clients and they don't have the font files. So we have to literally research to find out what font was used in the logo to ensure that there's brand consistency when we're creating content on social media. That actually, it seems like it doesn't matter, but it does, because subconsciously our brains identify consistency with the logo and then and the font of certain things. Which is why, like, if you use Canva, oftentimes where they have like font combinations, those are strategically and psychologically placed together as good combinations together. There are some fonts that just don't work well together. um, so it's important that you have those files. So if you have somebody who makes your logo, they should provide you those font files, because they know what font they use to create your logo. That would be needed in your brand identity, right? Also, have something written out that talks about your brand voice and tone, the personality and style of your brand. How do you speak? How do you show up on social media? All of that stuff matters, right? If you are doing this on your own, again, it may seem like, I don't really need that. But if you grow, and hopefully you grow, that's the goal. If you grow, you're going to need this for someone who will have to speak on your behalf. So that way you can focus on the development and the growth of the business and have a person and or a team to actually manage the content for you. So in the brand voice and tone, you want to also talk about the do's and don'ts, right? So what things are off limits, right? Oftentimes politics and religion is off limits for brands. That would be off limits. Does your brand use profanity? Some brands do, some brands don't. All of that needs to be noted in there, so that way someone can be able to come into their role with you and be able to just hit the ground running, understanding where their guardrails are, right? You will also need visual direction. So this would be considered a mood board, right? We make vision boards at the end of the year or at the beginning of each year. But for your brand, kind of need something very similar. And that gives a direction, a visual direction of like how you want your brand aesthetics to look on social media, how you want to show up visually. All of that stuff matters. All of these things matter. And you also want to talk about your ideal relationship with your customers, right? Who are your customers? And we call those personas. Who are they, right? Give them a name. Talk about the tensions that they have, the problems that they have, whether it be in their own business, if you are B2B, or in their life, if you are B2C. And B2B is business to business. B2C is business to consumer. So you want to talk about, what tensions they have, what problems they're facing, what other variables in their life do they experience, right? And that's all coming from the research that you have on your customer, on your ideal audience. And put that in the book, put that in your brand identity. So people who help you and who help kind of cultivate the growth of your brand as content managers, community managers, social media managers, they're able to identify who your audience is on social media and pull them in as organic followers, right? So any questions before I move forward to the next slide? And I'm checking the Q&A box, and have an eye out on the chat. So we look to be good. Okay. So next slide. All right. So this is a view of a content calendar. All right. We talk a lot about social because social media is the most prevalent part of a content strategy that people think of. But there are many pieces to content strategy in a content calendar. So if you look at the example that's provided, it's color coded. Oh, the chat is disabled. Trina, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know, Lori, we can leave it that way unless you want to switch it over. It's totally up to you. I'm used to viewing both. So totally up to you if you want to enable it.
Uh,
But the, oh, go
excuse
ahead.
me. Yeah, is the Q&A functioning? No, I see there's two in there.
Yeah.
If we could just use the Q&A, that would be
Okay.
wonderful.
Okay.
Hope everyone's
Perfect.
good with that.
Perfect. 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 So to everyone, if you have anything to ask, make sure you go to the Q&A. And yes, these slides will be available after the webinar. So don't worry. They will be available after the webinar. And Trina asks, where can I find more information about brand identity? Wonderful question. It is very common for larger brands to have brand identity. So if you were to just Google creating a brand identity, that would bring up a slew of templates, examples, all of the things. And again, they're also considered brand books. So in a brand book has all of the things about your brand identity. So they're either called a brand guide book, brand book, or brand identity. Okay. And you create it to essentially create process around how you show up, how your brand shows up to the world. And as your brand grows, that book becomes kind of like your brand Bible. It is passed to, you know, employees so they know how to represent the company. It is shared with, you know, your marketing team, your PR team, so that way they understand the fundamentals about your brand and how you show up to the world. Um, so to the content calendar, um, you want to think about all pieces of content. Social media is often the one that is thought of first, but you have email marketing, you have text marketing if you send out text. You have, you can also include key initiatives or key campaigns or important dates on your calendar. For example, we just had Black Friday. So Black Friday would be noted. And if you have a campaign, you can add the campaign as like an overview of like this campaign is happening. And if you do that, you can make sure emails, text, social media, all of the pieces of content that you put out, blogs, it all aligns with your campaign, right? This helps you to stay organized in knowing what's important for your brand, being proactive and saying, okay, for example, if you have a conference, right? There are marketing conferences that happen in around March or April. We would essentially put that on our content calendar, saying there's a conference in March in New York centered around X, right? That will say, okay, well, if there's a conference happening, we should have content centered around, or we can have content centered around that specific conference to prepare people for our live threads experience or live X, formerly known as Twitter, live tweeting experience, right? But we can be proactive in creating that right now. We don't have to wait until March to do that. The more proactive you are with a content calendar, um, the the better off you can actually create the content ahead of time and be ahead in terms of the proactive approach to your strategy. And there's no specific author or anything like that. I know HubSpot, if you guys are looking for like a template, HubSpot has a content calendar template that is fantastic. HubSpot has a lot of great resources in general. So um, if you don't have an account with them, I think they do have a free version. I would highly recommend HubSpot. They just all around they provide really great information and resources, not just to small businesses, but to large enterprise businesses as well. So definitely check out HubSpot for the calendar, the content calendar template. And if you know prefer, you can actually just build it out yourself. We use Google Docs for ours and for our clients. And that way it's easily shareable because if it's an Excel document, you got to make sure people have the updated version and all of that gets crazy. So if it's a doc, a Google sheet, anybody can go in, updates are real time, everybody gets the latest and greatest version of it. And we can keep it current and update as things change, because that happens. So yeah, so HubSpot, or just, create your own. I will say it sounds like a lot of work, because it is. It is. It's a lot of work, but it's well worth the time. So I mentioned earlier that this is like the perfect time to do this. It really, really is. Take some time to think about 2024 and your business, and how you want the direction of your content, and important campaigns that may come up, important dates. We actually, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but there are specific things within the content calendar that you can utilize and or lean into for content creation. We'll talk about that in a moment. I can never get HubSpot calendar to work. The link is always bad.
Yeah, I
Could
was
you
just gonna
forward a
read that one
working?
to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so we don't, could you forward a working copy to me? We do not utilize the HubSpot one. Um, we have many variations, just because for our clients, we know that it's not going to be one size fits all. So I recommended the HubSpot one, because that's kind of like a main platform that does provide the templates. What you could do is, if you go to HubSpot and they have the downloadable template. Once you download it, upload it into Google, and then transfer the document from like an Excel, because I think theirs is an Excel document, to a Google Sheet. When you change it to the Google Sheet, then it will live in your drive, and it will act as an active Google Sheet. In doing that, you might have some things that don't transfer over, which honestly might be okay. That should be okay. So download it and then upload it into Google as a Google Sheet. So that way it will be more editable for you and your team. Perfect, perfect. Awesome. Okay, and next slide. All right, so I'm gonna go back to this at a later point, because we have a slide specific to community management. So Lori, can you go back? Can you go to the next slide? Okay, yes. All right, so the essential ingredients to a social media calendar. So when I start a social media calendar for any client, our team starts with things that are brand focused. So of course, if there's like product launches, if there are conferences or webinars that the brand host, we start with those things, because those things most likely will not change. They won't move unless, for some reason, it doesn't work on this date or whatever. But for the most part, if a product is planned to launch June 15th, it's going to launch on or around June 15th. So we put those in the calendar first. Okay. Anything that Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, those would be on the calendar. They would be noted first. Then we tap into socially relevant holidays. These are audience-based. So that's your National Donut Day, Dog Lovers International Day, World Kindness Day, all of these days. And they actually have weeks too. So the Entrepreneurship Week was in November. Global Entrepreneurship Week was in November. Probably, I think it was the second week in November, right before Thanksgiving. And we had a client that participated in Global Entrepreneurship Week. So all of the content was about entrepreneurship on a global level, having a global impact, right? And we were able to tap into that audience that was talking about entrepreneurship on a global scale, because we were using the official hashtag for that week. So we actually have social socially relevant holidays blog where we outline a whole list, 250 plus lists of different observances, socially relevant weeks, days, months. So like a month would be AIDS Awareness Month, Women's History Month, Black History Month. Those type of things would be noted on there too. It is not exhaustive, believe it or not. There are so many more, but we would utilize those audience-based holidays and put them on the calendar because we can create content based off of the audience's interest. And if it aligns with us, we can easily tap into that to gain new eyeballs to our brand. And then again, you know, in seeing that example of the content calendar, we have it colorized like in different colors and labels. So that way, anybody on the team, when they come to it, it's easily identifiable in what is social media content, what is email content, email marketing content, what is a blog article or a blog post. And if you don't have all of those pieces and your main piece is social media, you can create the labels based off of the platform. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just a matter of doing it, right? So you can be as creative or as streamlined as you want. It's just a matter of doing it, right? And just make sure whatever that code, the color code that you create, make sure you have like a key on the sheet somewhere where someone could easily just come in and be like, oh wait, what's the purple mean? And they can go to the key to see what purple stands for or what blue stands for. But yeah, there's no right or wrong to it. It's just a matter of actually taking the time to build it out, flush it out. And you don't have to do it for the full year. I do have clients who do it for the full year. It is beautiful. A lot of work, we just take a full day. Literally, we have one scheduled, I believe, for the 16th of December. And we're taking that full day to just brainstorm, talk all things content, and fill out the entire year for 2024. So that way, when January 1st comes around the corner, not only do we have an outline of what we are discussing and what we're talking about, but we can also be very clear on what the messaging will be because it's already noted in a calendar and we can go out. Now, things can easily move around, but everything we need is there. You don't have to do it for the full year. We have clients who do it quarterly. So they work their content calendar every 3 months. And they say, okay, for this quarter, this is the priorities for us. You know, Altamis and team, this is what we're talking about. These are our initiatives. We plan to participate in these conferences. This is what we have. And then for 3 months, we are able to create a theme or like a strategic approach to the content to ensure that everything aligns for the overall company goals. So no right or wrong. And I know it is a lot. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, guys, it's not going to take a long time. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It'll take a long time, but it's worth it. It's worth it. All right, next slide. All right. So this part is near and dear to my heart. For those who know me and know my story, so I actually started with social media and learning the ins and outs of social media in corporate America. I started my career with CNN, and we actually managed, my team and my department, we managed all of the social media pages and profiles for the different anchors for CNN, HLN, and CNN International. If you didn't know, the anchors are not managing all of that content. There are people who are managing it on their behalf, okay? They have access, but they're not doing that themselves. So that is kind of the basis of where I learned the power of community management. There is power in listening to your people. And the people who take time to respond or to comment or to leave a question or anything like that, they represent a larger audience that probably thought the same exact thing, but they didn't take the time to comment to let you know. So we care so deeply for the people who take the time to leave a comment, to ask a question, to share their sentiment, because they matter. And if they took that time to do that, again, other people probably think the same thing. So there are two strategic angles to community management. Everybody knows one, and very few tap into the other, okay? The reactive approach and the reactive strategy that you will have, that involves all the comments that come to you. So that would be, general comments, that would be questions, that would be concerns and or complaints. That would be all the things where you're not initiating. They're coming to you first and you're responsible for responding. That reactive outreach has to have a strategy too. Otherwise, it could get overwhelming if you have a lot of comments coming in. What we utilize for that is something called a response matrix. That was what was on that slide before. We'll go back to that in a second. And on your response matrix, that's where you put your FAQs, your frequently asked questions. It's a working document. Okay, so it will always evolve because you can't have an answer for everything until you get the question in, if that makes sense. So as your brand evolves and as things grow and as you create new initiatives and new campaigns, people will leave different and interesting comments that will require a response. But you never know. Someone may ask that same question later. So you want to have like a database, or you want to have a place that just houses all of that information for your brand. So that way, anyone who's managing your brand, they could easily go in and get an FAQ, or they can easily go in, and if someone complains about a product or something, they can easily get your response. And, whatever that response is, of course, they'll personalize it, but they have the fundamentals. They have that foundation there. So that's on the reactive side, right? The proactive side, that is, that's where beauty happens, okay? The proactive side involves your hashtags. They are clickable. I encourage you to click those lovely hashtags that you use in your content to find new people. And to just make sure you want to use that hashtag based off of the content that's associated. Facebook groups, right? People and pages, depending upon the rules of the group. But people and pages can join Facebook groups. So you can join as yourself or as the brand, right? And if you join as the brand, treat it as, research and learning how your audience responds to different things, what needs they have, that kind of thing. Very few pages allow the brands to be as active as people, primarily just because it's a brand, it's not a person, and they don't want it to seem salesy. They don't want their Facebook group to feel like they're being sold to, that kind of thing. So if you are welcomed into a Facebook group, just be mindful of those things and kind of use it as research. Same thing with the LinkedIn groups. I think they're more lenient on LinkedIn with this, because a lot of the company pages, when they are into the groups, they can engage. And the LinkedIn algorithm actually encourages the brands to engage. That's the opposite of Facebook groups. So just be mindful of like the rules and how you're allowed to engage. And then also, making sure that when you are doing your outreach, you are engaging authentically. So like, for example, I talked about the hashtags. If you click a hashtag, any hashtag, and test it out, but when you click a hashtag, it automatically pops up with content associated with that hashtag. You can go to top post or most recent. I always encourage people to go to the most recent. The reason is because the top posts are at the top for a reason. They are most engaged. If you can imagine the person receiving the responses, the notifications, the dings, the new message requests, right? It's loaded. They're not going to see if you leave a comment. They're not going to see that. But if you go to most recent, you know that person is online right now. You know that the engagement is still growing because they just posted it. You know that their content, if it's a hashtag that you use quite frequently, their content will most likely align with yours. So if you leave a comment, they'll see it. They will see it and they will engage, right? And if they don't engage, I promise you, they're going to click your profile picture to see what you talk about. So it's a great way to just do some organic outreach and growth, follower growth. And yeah, so the response matrix, it's evergreen. It's a working document. It will never be finalized. It grows, it builds. And you can also incorporate the responses into auto replies. So if you are utilizing Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, and WhatsApp, because WhatsApp they have a business, WhatsApp business side. If you utilize those tools for your brand and for messaging and for content within Meta Business Suite, there's a space specifically for community management. And if you click there, you can actually manage all pieces, whether it is comments made on public posts, whether it's private messages, and regardless of the platform, you can see it all in one place. And you can set up auto replies there. Oftentimes people do the default ones where it says, where are you located? What are your business hours? And how, and can you help me, or something like that is the third one. But you can customize those based off of your brand and input auto replies. The only thing I would say is make sure someone is responding back to the people after that auto reply goes out. There have been a few brands I've experienced where, they have the auto replies set up, but they don't come back like they did. It's as if like the auto reply is the response, and that's not how it should be. And it just creates a bad customer experience. So make sure that if you have the auto reply, you keep yourself committed to follow up and make sure you respond personally to the person. And then when you think of community management, the standard practice is 2 to 4 hours. So people expect a response within 2 to 4 hours. I know, interesting, right? Because social media is 24/7. So if someone was to respond to you at midnight, 2 to 4 hours. But that's why the auto replies are so important. So utilize these tools that they've provided you, set them up, right? So you can set the expectation. You can tell someone, if they send you a message at 11 o'clock at night or at 2 o'clock in the morning because they're experiencing insomnia and they are on Instagram and they found your page and they love your product, but they have a question before they buy, you can have an auto reply set up to where it says, thank you so much for reaching out to us. You've reached us during our out of office hours. However, we will be sure to respond to you first thing in the morning, or we'll be sure to respond to you within 24 to 48 hours. Expectation set. See what I mean? So make sure you do those things, because this piece here, the community management, it can make a huge difference in how someone sees your brand and the word of mouth that comes from it. Word of mouth is still the most powerful form of marketing. It's the most powerful form. Influencer marketing is a form of word of mouth marketing. Influencer marketing does that at scale. That's why influencer marketing is so powerful, because if I trust you and I like you and I follow you and you say, oh my gosh, this brand is so amazing, y'all need to check this out, I am more likely to buy because I like you and I trust you. And you're not the brand vouching for you, like for yourself. You're a person who tested out the brand and who said, oh, this is a good product, or this is a good service. And I'll be like, all right, cool. I'll try it out because you said so. Just like referrals, right? Community management is connected to that. So you want to make sure that you really care for the people who take the time to respond, to comment, to engage with your brand, even if it's just one person. It can make all the difference in the world. And I see a question, is it possible to set up auto replies on Insta creator accounts? Yes, because Instagram creator accounts have the same access to the business platforms through Meta Business Suite as a business account. The people who do not have access are personal accounts, because Meta's assuming you have a personal account. You don't need to be able to manage all of your comments this way. So they don't give access to people who have personal pages. But if you have a creator account or you have a business account, yes, you have access to these tools. Would you recommend turning off Messenger on Facebook Business if your brand is being run by only one person, so you have less platforms to hunt down customer communications? Unfortunately, no. The reason being is because as a consumer, if the Messenger is turned off, my initial question is why? Like as a customer, I'd be like, you don't want me to talk to you? Like, that's weird. It is about perception, right? So even if you're a one person band, and this is kind of off topic, but not really. If you are a one person brand and you're handling everything on your own, present yourself as a we. Meaning your brand, I'll use Lori for an example. Your brand has beautiful gift baskets, right? And you have all of these amazing things that you provide. In messaging, it's we.
Yes.
We provide you with all of these amazing gifts for any occasion that you need, right? Do not say I. It's a perception thing. And perception can create someone's reality. Even if that reality may not be truth, it will be truth to them. So I would recommend setting up, instead of turning off Messenger, utilize as many of the tools provided to you as possible. Utilize the auto replies, set clear expectations in your messaging, make sure that people understand that because you are a small business, you're a small business, please be gracious and flexible in our response time. We're doing the best we can to service all the people that we love and we are here for, that kind of thing. So if you do it that way, most people are very understanding. They're extremely understanding. You just got to set the expectation and you got to show up to do that. Are there oh, perfect. Yep. Are there automation tools to push content to multiple social media channels and accounts simultaneously? Yes. Yes, there are. There are tools that help you to schedule content out in a batch, and have it all go out at the same time. And if you want to tweak the messaging on one or have a different picture here, but it's all in sync, there are platforms to do that. One of the most prominent platforms would be Hootsuite, and that's HOOT. Hootsuite. And Buffer is one. Buffer's another one. Planly is one. Later, Later, is one. Now I will say this, with those platforms, they are third-party tools. So they tend to have potential authentication issues with certain platforms that require API authentication. One of the main ones that require it is Instagram. Instagram requires API authentication. That is a protection wall. So no one can just enter into the Instagram API and pull data and or scrape it or put content there. They can't do that. You have to have permission, right? So, and if Instagram was to change something, it can impact that third-party tool. So that's why Meta created a scheduling tool inside of it. So if you only focus on Facebook and Instagram, you actually have a platform that's free, that's already integrated into Meta Business Suite, that is a full, and actually they have a calendar view inside it. So if you schedule the content out for Facebook and Instagram, you can click calendar view and you can see the full calendar of the content you scheduled. But it's just for their tools, right? So if you have TikTok and, you know, LinkedIn and all of the other ones, you would need a third-party tool for that. Let's see, Jamie says that we find the only thing consistent about Meta Business is that it is consistently glitchy. We tried daily for months to manage the business, and we could get a comment message for weeks, and that yes. Virtually, we get constant notifications about comments or messages from years back. Yes, we switched back to working direct from the app. Is this common? Okay, so Meta is one of our business partners with Azar. So we have partnered with them on a number of projects. We have great relationship with them, but we've learned some of the ends of Meta. They have an interesting motto that they live by. Every department lives by this motto. And it is perfection is the enemy of progress. Perfection is the enemy of progress. They will intentionally launch products that are not fully baked. As long as they are about 80% done, they will release it, knowing with all intention that they're going to piss people off, and people will comment and they will say, this is trash. What? Why did you have it this way? Da, 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 da. Meanwhile, the product team is in the back watching the comments, getting the feedback from the people of exactly what they want to complete the 20%. They do it all the time. They have glitches because if they update coding, sometimes the old coding, it breaks. So then they have to go back and figure out where the break is. And it could take, that's when, you know, those moments where like Instagram shuts down or goes black or whatever. That's what happened. They updated something and a code broke, and whatever that code that broke, it just jacked up stuff. And the product team is they're going to find that broken code so they can fix it based off of the updates that they just created. So yes, they are glitchy. And if you ask Meta, it's not that they don't care. They want to know why is it glitchy for you? Like, it's a weird psychological thing that's in their team on every department, but they live by it. And that's why they are able to master certain things, because they take the feedback directly from their audience, directly from their customer, their consumers, and then they incorporate it into that last 20% to fix the product. So yeah, it's glitchy. we've personally had issues with the community management side and have reached out, and they'll be like, give us time, we're fixing it. Like, try this. Like, that's what they will do. In that scenario, right, I recommend you utilize theirs as a backup, unless it's the only one that you have, right? Utilize theirs, but definitely have a third-party tool. So we use HeyOrca. I would not recommend this to you if you are not an agency. It's an agency platform. It is a tool that helps us with our clients in the approval process. So it has a built-in integration to where clients can give us approvals, give us comments, feedback. It builds, feedback for us, that kind of thing, but we pay for that. So I wouldn't recommend HeyOrca for you all unless you have a structure like ours, where you work with clients and you do content strategy and those type of things. What is a reasonable monthly budget to utilize small business if you are one-person operation? If one or two platforms only, what would you recommend? Reasonable estimate budget to utilize for a small business if you are one-person operation. So let's see. I'm assuming this budget would apply to a team member. I'm assuming. And if not, Joseph, please feel free. Okay, so meaning to use social media outlets, monthly budget, yearly estimate. Okay, so honestly, that depends on your business objectives and what your itemized budget is for marketing, and things like that. The reason I say that is because we have had clients that have had media budgets of 25 bucks a month, right? Sounds really, really small. Like, what in the world can you get with 25 bucks a month? But they were annual clients that renewed with us time over time. And that $25 budget was consistent, which means that we were able to test and learn month over month. And because we were able to do that probably by like month eight or nine, we were able to get a cost per down to sub pennies because we were testing and learning. We were literally actively listening to the ad. And when, we noticed an audience was responding this well to a certain graphic or whatever, we lean into that and we tweak the audience as necessary. So that was with a budget of 25 bucks. And they just made sure we had that $25 budget every month. And we were able to run that ad for them. And it was consistent. So the consistency really, really matters, right? If you're gonna invest in media, invest in media. Don't do it one time. You're not gonna get anything out of it. You will not get a return. The return happens when you are consistent, even when it doesn't look like it's a return. Keep going, because at the end of on the other side of the screen is a person just like you, who has skepticism and everything else, and they're probably just going to make sure that you are who you say you are, your brand is, and they provide what they say they provide, and then they say, oh, okay, we'll buy from you, right? So it takes time. So I would say that. And oh, Hey Orca. So Hey Orca is not a US based company. And it's literally a whale. Like their logo is a whale. So it's hey, like hey, and then the whale, Orca, ORCA, I think. So but they're awesome. Their customer service is great. But they're just B2B for content creators, and social media companies. So they're more on the B2B side. I wouldn't recommend it if you're not on that side, because they'll have features and tools that are just useless to you. You would not have any value of those. How do you interview the right person to run your social media? Okay, so I always tell people this when you're talking about social, anyone who guarantees you anything, run. We can't guarantee anything because we're dealing with humans. That is the beauty and the curse of social media. The beauty is we get directly to your audience. The curse is we get directly to your audience, and that audience is a person, and that person has free will. They can choose to follow you or choose to hit the follow but don't like the page. That happens. Or be like, oh, I'm gonna like the page, but I'm gonna turn off the notifications. Or just don't follow. Like they'll keep a tab on you and not do anything, but you see them in the stories. Like you see that you have the audience, but they're not talking, they're not engaging, because they're people. They're people with free will. So if you are in the process of interviewing people and they guarantee you a result of something, ask them how they plan to do that, considering there are human beings on the other side, and every person responds differently, right? Also, if they are invested, for me personally, I'm all about like the relationships. I'm all about making sure that we understand your brand, understand your mission, understand your values, so that we can properly communicate that out. If the person is unwilling to, or unable, or prioritizes their initiative, their goal over yours, chances are the output would be more important than ensuring the goal is met, if that makes sense. So just keep that in mind. And then also, I just had a conversation with somebody about this. Followers are a vanity metric. They're a vanity metric. Meta talks about how followers are a vanity metric. It is a vanity metric. They at one point they were thinking about doing away with them, but then there were people who had a whole bunch of them and be like, no, don't get away with them. We worked hard to get them, so they didn't get away. They didn't remove them, but they allowed people to say hide my likes because that doesn't matter because it doesn't. It doesn't matter. So on your brands, you can hide likes, right? It'll say one person and others versus one person and 1,500 or whatever. Because it's all a vanity. It's all a vanity metric. Focus on your impact. Focus on your message. Focus on building your content out. Focus on the community that already opted into you. Because if you have, let's say, 500 followers, if 20% of those 500 followers actually purchased and they converted and they became a consistent buyer of your product, you got to win, right? So focus on what you have, focus on the impact, focus on building your strategy, focus on all of those things. I promise everything else will follow. Everything else will follow because you're focused on the right things. And when you are thinking about hiring someone to help you with your brand in that way, make sure they have that same mindset. Because if they don't, they will have you chasing followers, chasing numbers that don't even matter to your bottom line. Like, yeah, it's great to say you got, thousands of followers on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, but if they don't convert and they don't buy your product or they don't invest in your services, how good are they? Doesn't really matter, right? So I would say make sure that they have a mindset of impact and kind of linking arms with you. That's what we say in Azar. We link arms with our partners to say, like, your mission becomes our mission. And if your mission is this, that's our mission. So tell us what your mission is and we'll help you get there. So I would say that would definitely be key. That would be key.
Awesome.
So
Also,
Lori,
Denise, I
can you
have
go
to interrupt.
back?
Yeah,
Oh, go
because we're
ahead.
running a little bit out of time. Your presentation is
Okay.
awesome. We've got a couple people that said that the presentation has been wonderful. Just wanted you to know that.
Awesome, awesome,
But
awesome.
yeah, we want to circle back, but only got a couple minutes, so I just want to make sure that you're cognizant of time.
Okay, thank you, thank
We
you,
want
thank
to
you.
go
Can you
back,
go
right?
back?
Yep.
Yes, go back to the slide with, yes, this. Okay, so this is an example of a response matrix. Okay, so that first column is the question. Literally, we copy what was sent to us, right? The question, and then we give in the next column an area for the client to respond and give us how they would want us to respond, right? And sometimes, like, because it is the client, we tell them, don't worry about how it's presented. Like, just tell us the answer. And then we clean it up. And then we go in and we clean it up. So that way, anybody who comes in after us, there's a response matrix that they can use that they can easily say, oh, if someone said, you're beautiful, how does the client want us to respond to that? Like, oh, or if someone has a complaint about the product, how does the client want us to respond to that? And we can easily just put all of that in without reaching out to you 80 billion times throughout the day to get the answer. So that's an example of the response matrix. And then Lori, can you now go ahead? I think the next slide was the key takeaways.
Yep. Can I just
Okay.
add something really quick? Because what you just spoke about, as far as response, when you get a
Yes.
negative feedback, help talk to that because it's very important to
Yes.
respond to those, is it not?
Yes. Oh my God. It's actually, so when you respond to a negative comment, you're really not responding to the person who left the comment. You're responding to the readers who
Yeah.
saw the comment and they're wondering how you're going to respond back. And that makes all the difference in the world. I think it's important to remember, you can't please everybody. So you're going to have those people who will complain or not be pleased or whatever. But remember that from your brand's perspective, you treat them with care. As long as you treat them with care and the response, the people who are reading it, they will appreciate it. and they'll understand like, oh, okay, so they responded, great. Like, even if you can't fix the problem, they see that you acknowledged the person, because the acknowledgement is key. Acknowledge the person, and then, provide whatever necessary response. When I worked at Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, and of course, if you know anything about those two brands, they had the same feed, which means that kids would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it would be Adult Swim on TV, and it would be like a butt, literally a butt, because we had a show called Assy McGee. It was like a cartoon character butt, but it was for adults. And parents would call in and they would be furious, rightfully so, because their kid woke up at 3 a.m. and there was a butt on their TV screen, and their kid is like, what? Like, and they're like, why is this? Right? And I would have to explain and acknowledge the parent's concern, hear them out without interruption, let them know that I'm there to hear them, right? And then explain to them that Cartoon Network has a bedtime, just like its core audience. The core audience is 6 to 9 years old, up to 13 years old. So Cartoon Network has a bedtime. We go to bed at 9, we wake up at 6. Between 9 and 6, kids aren't awake. They shouldn't be. So because at 9-6, Cartoon Network doesn't get any ratings because we go to bed with our audience. Adult Swim steps in and they talk to the adults, right? The parents may not like it, but they understand it. They respect it, right? So definitely do that, okay? Be proactive with your content. Prioritize brand identity. Prioritize your brand values. Getting that down on paper. Create a content calendar for all of your marketing. This is a great time to do it for 2024. Assess your community management strategy. Create a strategy for both reactive and proactive community management, those comments that come into you, as well as, finding the people who are like-minded, who connect with your brand, who you would be able to serve, and tell them, hey, come check us out. And have fun with it. Don't get overwhelmed by it. It's just social. Y'all, the shelf life on these are short. Like, people freak out over posts that only last 24 to 48 hours anyway, right? Like, no one goes back to the feed if they, pass the 9 grid. So it's okay, right? Have fun with it. Have fun with it. Be intentional with it. And if you have any questions at all, just shoot me a DM and we can talk. And thank you.
Yeah, everybody, I just want you to read all these wonderful comments that are coming in about how awesome your training is and how valuable. And so we're very proud of you. We love to have you as one of our presenters. We very much appreciate you. And I'm going to click through. I think we are done. SCORE is an SBA funded organization. So we appreciate SCORE. And the SBA, and we have future presentations coming along. So make sure you keep an eye on, we have branding and IP and design, all sorts of good topics coming. Ultimately, are you scheduled for anything later in the year? I'm not sure. People are asking that as well. I think early next
not
year.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we kick it off at the beginning of the year. I think we're done for this year.
We'll watch for you because you're the best. And then if you do, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Lori. I want to mention something. Haley had a really great question, and she asked if if you get weird off the wall messages from customers, do you ignore them? Okay, so if you know for a fact that it's a customer, don't ignore it. Try at your best, give your best PR response, right? But please be careful with messages right now. There are hackers that are very relentless and consistent, and they're showing up as Meta, or they're showing up as Facebook, and they're saying you're in violation of something, or you're in violation of a community management guideline or whatever. These are not real. They are hackers. And if you respond, what they do is they hack your account, they change your password, they update your questions so you can't get in. And then they just take it over. This has happened to about 2 or 3 people that I know personally. So please know, Meta will never directly message you. That is actually against their community guidelines. because they don't have the mutual relationship to be able to drop in your DMs. They can't do that. So be careful with, spam. If you see spam, report it, block it, and just don't engage with it.
Yeah,
I'm
that
sorry,
happens
Lori.
daily. Yeah, no, that's a
Yeah.
good point. It happens daily. In fact, someone actually tried to reset my password just 2
Yes.
days ago because of that. So
Yes.
that was a very good point. I'm sorry I missed that because you've got so many Q&As coming in here and we've run out of time. So maybe you can kind of keep an eye on these. I don't know if there's a way that
Okay.
you can respond. And I need to fix the chat.
Okay.
Someone had comment on that. I have to apologize. I didn't want to break something in the midst of this workshop. So if I need to activate chat, I will learn how to do that next time. So my sincere apology for that. And with that, let's, I guess let's just finish this off. If you need a mentor with SCORE, we contact us at score.org/thelowcountry. And it is confidential, it's one-on-one, and it's free, more importantly. So if there are any things you need assistance with, we'd be happy to help you. I am actually a certified SCORE business mentor, and they actually helped me start my business. So they're very valuable. And if you want to be a volunteer yourself, we are always looking for SCORE volunteers, and you can do workshops, social media, probably do a much better job at managing this presentation than I'm doing at the moment, but we would love to have you. And you can always follow us. We have to learn what Altamise just taught us on all of our social media platforms, please. And again, we are powered by SBA. It's a small business association or administration, excuse me.